one of the characters tells the other off for using the incorrect pronouns of the shark. And I'm trying to figure out if that's them like either making fun of the topic or trying to address the topic, or it's just they needed some dialogue, so they decided to put like a pronoun reference in it.
Yes.
But it's all
probably.
of this.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Pointless Discourse with myself, Hoppocalypse, and Payne, and
Hello.
guest.
Oh, I have to guess?
Yeah, guest with a T.
Oh. That's not as fun. I want to guess. Is it like Guess Who?
I can't even. We talked a lot, so my brain.
Welcome, Welcome, Systemchalk, back to the podcast. It's been too long. Actually, I could look up when the last time we said like a date. I'm gonna look it up now. But how you doing?
I'm so mad at you for making me watch this movie.
This is honestly not the worst movie we've watched.
I was told, so I am happy that I am the least drunk driver on the road. I will feel so much safer.
Yeah,
there's one movie we could not even give a rating of a 1 out of 10.
Oh. What was the movie? I haven't been watching or listening to the podcast, apparently.
It's not released yet.
It's not released yet. It is. Let's see.
The movie or the podcast?
The movie's been out since
the movie shouldn't have been released.
Movie came out in 2017, and the episode of the podcast airs November 27th.
Hello from the past. I hope that you are still here to listen to this. I don't know when this is coming online.
We can tell you. You're the second to last one, so I think it's actually the week of Christmas.
Week before.
Yeah, that one.
I'm the cliffhanger before the season finale. Sorry for talking over you, Hop.
No, you're absolutely fine. Yeah, because Christmas is on a Monday this year that I have to keep reminding myself, like, awkward holiday.
Yeah, so that was the case. I will say, when we were building this list and we were like, hey, you know, it'd be really funny because we want to get Systemchalk back on. What if we gave him what could potentially be the worst movie in the whole list? And then that really backfired because it turned out that a lot of these episodes are the worst movie. Where we said, hey, if we watch these in a different order, a lot of these movies would have gotten a higher score.
Yeah, currently our average movie rating across the board, I decided to calculate it because it's so low, is a 3.5.
Mm-hmm. And then I also looked it up. The last time you were on was on, that is June 14th, when we talked about sci-fi books.
Yeah, which I'm...
Of 2021.
Yeah, the year is very helpful.
Yep.
Yeah, I always tend to feel I'm probably very ill-equipped for these episodes because I like many of the topics that you talk about, and then I talk with you all, I realize that I have a very small drop in a very large ocean, but you do a very good job of dragging me over the finish line, particularly given how much I tend to talk. I think I've got like a 10-to-1 ratio. Yeah, actually, please don't calculate this, but I'm pretty sure with your fancy AIs and your audio tools, you could actually work out the word count ratio.
What is it like? What was it? Now I'm forgetting. There was always that like thing that people like normally use it for like mean-spirited jokes. And it's like women speak like use 3 times the amount of words as men do, and then it's like, would you be like, which word bracket are you above them all? We got the Systemchalk bracket.
Could we please mute the sexist? I don't know if I can keep going on with
We'll give you the status of radio talk host. They talk a lot.
That's a very diplomatic way of putting it. But no, I am very grateful to be back. I feel that I wanted to try and bond over kind of sharing a terrible experience, but it sounds like for you two that this has actually just been this is kind of like going to Disneyland, you know. You've gotten out of the minefield and now you're in the theme park, and it's wonderful. So
yeah. Well, the fun thing is this is this is the last one that we're recording for the series, but this is the second to last one to be released.
Okay, yeah, so I don't know, like, if I'm supposed to be a dramatic cliffhanger at the end where maybe I'll, like, try and say a very profound sentence and then just stop talking at the end, and then that'll be, like, your lead into the finale. Or, yeah, I mean, it matters in terms of the order of when these things are going to be presented.
Hey, we recorded these so far out of order. Like, well, now we can talk about it because it comes out after it, but it's like, the episode where we watched Anne and the Apocalypse, which was 2 episodes before this one.
God, spoiler alert, I haven't listened to your podcast yet.
Cool. Now you know.
I don't need to listen.
It's all good. But the benefits of being this late in the series, that was the first episode recorded because it was like the only time we could get that person. And the funny thing is, I just edited that episode this week. And Hop mentions it in the beginning, but it's like when we start recording this, when we started episode 1 of this series, where she's like, yeah, right near the end, my hair's going to change. And then it showed up, and I'm like, yeah. So.
Ruin the illusion of everything being recorded sequentially.
Yeah. Well, I do that just by talking.
So this might just be because I'm very clearly, if you were to walk into my apartment, you'd say it's like there is very clearly a single guy living here. I do not yet have curtains up in my apartment despite living here for over a year. And it's a big one of my cardboard moving boxes because I believe in recycling, but it is very bad for the sun shining in my eyes and because it is that time of the day. So I will confess that I actually did not appreciate that you had dyed your hair, Hop. I actually just thought it was the blue tint because you have the daylight shining in. And now I am actually seeing you have in fact dyed your hair as opposed to it just looking like you've got a bright light on you and the color temperature is off. So I'm sorry. I have not been... I'll just say I was looking at your eyes.
It's totally fine. My hair is also hard to explain anyway, but I don't think it ever comes through appropriately when we record these because we're either recording at night because of our schedules or early enough in the day that it's so washed out from the blinds. Like, the blinds can take care of, like, me not being blinded by the sun, but it doesn't really help for the color balance in the room. I have, like, green and blue and purple all in my hair. So in person it has a fun effect, but on camera it's just
like if you want Hop's true hair color tone, you have to subscribe to the Patreon, and if you find it, let us know because
it's not us.
It's not us. It's that other podcast.
I was gonna just try and be clever and say, it matches your microphone.
That was like unintentional because I told my hairstylist, I was like, I kind of want purple and green in my hair again. And she's like, I didn't like the way I did it last time. Do I have permission to just do whatever I want? I was like, no. I am a canvas. You are an artist. And she said, don't say that to me. And then she went.
Yeah. So, brain died. But I do have some fun shark facts because...
Before shark facts... I would like to let Systemchalk plug himself because we always forget if we don't do it now.
Go ahead.
Well, thank you. I am what you might call a thought leader, an influencer, a thinkfluencer, if you will. You can find me on all of the relevant sites, such as Twitter, that bastion of free speech. No. I do video games on the internet on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Systemchalk. If you do not see me as interruptions to your otherwise perfectly enjoyable podcast with 2 very gracious hosts who I have no idea why they keep inviting me back, but I'm very happy that they do. You can find me there. But the thing I actually like doing is writing. You can find me at systemchalk.ca if you want to hear unusual opinions, often sarcastic opinions, which people take quite literally. And then if you just want to know my opinions on things, I suppose you can go to twitter.com/systemchalk as long as it lasts. But yeah, you however long this podcast winds up being will be the judgment you can make as to whether or not I am worth following. But thank you to Payne and Hoppocalypse, not just for inviting me, but for giving me a chance to plug my stuff.
And now we unplug it. I'm going to erase all that.
Yes. See ya. I'm done.
That's all we needed, boys. Get him.
This is what I came here for, to try and poach your audience.
Is Elon Musk a Gen X?
No, he's
Sorry.
older.
I don't know when the cutoffs of the years for these generational category whatever.
Oh, he might be Gen X. He's 52.
Yeah.
So we-
Yeah, I think that is because if someone younger buys it from him, will they call it generation millennial or like call it millennial or or Y, and then Gen Z can buy it, and then it will just be called Z. And
Did you Canadianize it for me? I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I did. I did, but my brain for some reason didn't made it sound very fake when it came out of my mouth. I'm like, it's like yeah, and it's like no, that's what I was trying to do. Why are you trying to discount me, brain? Because it's what I do. No.
I was curious. I Googled it. Forbes, for some reason, like the first Google result I get is Forbes saying Generation X includes Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, while many can't afford to retire.
Get wrecked.
Jeez, why does it get so political all of a sudden? I just wanted to find everybody's age.
I know. I was like, okay, Forbes.
Forbes, the
earlier-
bastion of communist thought.
Well, earlier when we were talking about books and all that, I was surprised that I didn't R.F. Kuang. I didn't realize was only 27 years old because we were talking about her books. And found out, yeah, she has 3 masters and is on her way to get a doctorate. And I'm like, oh.
She needed three attempts, and the fourth time she'll get the doctorate. That's really mean. I probably did not mean that to sound as harsh as it probably did.
Well, that's what we get when we listen to a colonizer. Anyway, hey, did you guys know sharks don't have bones?
Yes.
Cartilage, right?
I don't know. I didn't. This is a
The
big
only
paragraph
thing
afterwards.
That's why the Megalodon, all you've got is his jaw and teeth.
That's good. I can just say these, and then resident animal fact collector will just be able to say it. Let's see. Also, most sharks have good eyesight.
Does the Santa shark have good eyesight, though?
Good
Halfway.
Good eyesight relative to...
Yeah, because I mean, if you think of the mantis shrimp, right? Doesn't the mantis shrimp
It's
wind up seeing in
seasoned.
spectrums that we cannot even comprehend?
Yeah, they're even beyond what birds can see, because birds have another spectrum of visions, because blackbirds all look different to them, because they have the extra sight. And then beyond that, there's mantis shrimp.
A blackbird looks like a peacock to a mantis shrimp because of the spectrum that it can see.
Yeah.
So yeah, Deepak, we need some context here. Come on. So on the scale
it
of mantis
relative to-
shrimp.
Hold on. I got to bring back up the article. I thought we were going to riff about this.
Okay, no. If you want to riff about this, why are there not more Christmas movies about killer mantis shrimp rather than sharks? I would say that at this point, sharks have jumped the shark. But this is like sci-fi's go-to. But mantis
right.
shrimp horror.
I
film?
found it again.
I'd see that. They're terrifying.
Yeah, here's the little paragraph. Most sharks can see well in dark lighted areas and have fantastic night vision and can see colors. I can see colors. I'm a shark now. Never mind. I can't see well in the dark. I hate driving at night because everything looks like stars.
You have an astigmatism.
I'm getting there. But yeah, I told that to the eye doctor when I went in I think 2 years ago when I got my eyes checked, and he's like, nah. And I'm like, how'd you know? How do you know?
How does your optometrist react to you calling him an eye doctor? Does he get very uppity about it? Or
Hey,
does
I
he
only
just-
saw that person once. And then I haven't been able to see since. What? Let's see. The back of shark eyeballs. Wow, that was not proper English. The back of sharks, there we go, eyeballs have a reflective layer of tissue called tapetum. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. This helps sharks to see see extremely well with little light.
Okay, so it's
Cats
Tom,
or sharks.
It's Tom Clancy's Great White Shark. It's like a Splinter Cell character, you know. Now, if that shark
They
could
go
do...
fishing. Called
Ooh.
Sam.
There you go. We've got a new franchise. Ubisoft, call me.
Now I'm just imagining a shark like doing the stupid thing that they did in Splinter Cell, where he did splits like on the ceiling, but it's just like between two boats, and he's like, but like just slightly out of water. He's like, "Oh, this is a bad idea," just unable to breathe.
We've already got a treatment for a vastly superior Christmas mantis shrimp super spy shark pair up.
This DreamWorks. This falls in your wheelhouse.
But yes, I think we haven't given appropriate context on why we gave shark facts. Systemchalk alluded to it. We have watched Santa Jaws for this episode.
Hey, I think that was the inspiration for this whole series.
I actually, I'm sorry, I completely forgot you did not mention the movie yet. So
It's
spoiler
fine.
alert to those of you 15 minutes ago.
In a little bit, we'll have plenty more spoilers. So this is
Yes.
their warning now.
Yeah, I do think this was the movie that kind of was the kickoff for this idea, because
You found this, DJ.
yes. Well, last year we did Sharktopus, which that was a delight. and, but like in that, like we toyed around the ideas, like, do we just want to do like bad shark movies? And then this came up, and I was like, is there more like Christmas based like killer animal movies? There probably is, but we did that, and then that kind of turned into, well, what if we do Christmas horror movies? And now this is the one that started the idea last year or January, I don't know. To be fair, the A24 idea it came out way later than our normal ideas.
Do you have
We
to
talked
watch?
about
Yeah. Please, Hoppocalypse, go ahead.
I was just going to say, we did talk about possibly doing a bracket of A24 films way back when, but we've abandoned the bracket idea.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I don't like watching more than one movie in a week.
Do you have to watch the preceding A23 movies to understand them, or do you...
Well, and the A21 and down for it. It is a whole like Brandon Sanderson connective universe, multiverse.
Yeah, there's a lot of rules, so we need to start from the beginning.
Yeah, made by Mormons. Sorry, if no one knows anything about Brandon Sanderson, that joke did not land. So.
I only found out about him because someone I know was very offended by a Wired profile about him.
Yeah, I'm not gonna get into it.
Well, I think he is writing for a it's Unknown Worlds, I think, is the company. The people who did Subnautica have a miniature game. So like their effort was to try and actually capture tabletop miniatures in a video game. And apparently they got... Okay, I'm gonna steal from a writer I like on this one, but I will confess I'm a little confused about the idea of world building. Like, you know, how apparently George R.R. Martin did world building for Elden Ring, but like everybody's trying to actually define exactly what he did on that project. And there is actually a book of essays that I've read called Against World Building and Other Provocations. And I actually really like one line out of the article, which is Against World Building, which basically says it sounds like reverse Vogons. Like, and I was actually, that probably sounds like a really good summary. So like, it sounds vaguely like being an ideas guy, where it's like, okay, you know, you don't actually have to come up with a plot. You just kind of come up with, you know, a setting. And I'm like, but that's not the hard bit.
Is Vogons the thing from Hitchhiker's Guide?
Vogon, yes, they are.
Okay, I was making sure I was thinking the right thing. I'm
They've
like,
got ships that hang in
Yes.
the air like bricks don't. God, that is a very good book.
Yeah, but I guess a quick synopsis of Brandon Sanderson, because like he finished the Wheel of Time series, and then just COVID hit, and then I guess this dude had nothing to do but like publish books, because like that's like the joke now, where he has like 34 books that came out like in 3 years. And
he has like multiple series and universes.
yeah, well, they're all like part of a multiverse thing. And
yeah, because I know Mistborn is another big in his namesake.
yeah, well, that's a finished series, and that one's at least that I think the main story of that is finished, or whatever. It was a trilogy, or I think it's a trilogy. I don't know. I know a lot of people like Mistborn. I started with Way of Kings, and then I made it to like book
isn't
3.
Way of Kings like also massive?
Yeah, that's why when we were talking earlier, it was just like size of books we were reading. I'm like, wonder what the biggest book I read, and then it's book 3 of that. But it's like I started it in December and finished it in January. But it was also the one where I'm like, I got to take a break from this dude. I think he's a good writer, but I'm like, I'm tired of, hey, character progression, and then in the beginning of his next book, they get pretty much Metroid, where they like trip and like all progression like goes like 8 steps back, and it's like, what was the point of your character growth? But anyway, I also don't write 7-book long series that are bigger than most textbooks. But that's not what we're here to talk about.
Well, I will say one thing just so I don't sound too elitist on it. Like again, I haven't read his stuff, so a little bit like we were talking about before the recording, which was super awesome, and all of you should pay for the extra deluxe Patreon tier, so that which was completely recorded and definitely available to people. You should definitely
to your
pay
knowledge,
extra for
it
that.
was.
Yeah, everything I said canon will be used against
Yeah,
me.
I'm gonna make sure I edit it out of context.
Thanks. I forgot to tell you a story about one of my articles. I'll save that for DMs. But yeah, no, it definitely, that is one of those ones that falls under that, Marcus Aurelius has absolved me from having to have an opinion on everything. And I will absolutely, if a Roman emperor said it's okay, then clearly it is okay. So I will, this is the one thing that I do think is kind of nice, though, is that it is neat to know that people are, again, I don't know if he comes from nothing, but I certainly I didn't even know he worked on Wheel of Time, but just, it does seem like this is kind of almost like a publishing empire that has come out of nothing. And I think it is cool that people are still able to make a living writing in that way, without necessarily having, usually what you'll see is the highfalutin writers will support themselves through a job at a university, which is completely fine. Like, that is a legitimate way. I say highfalutin just so that I can be a man of the people. But it is nice to know that there is still a way of finding some kind of commercial success, which doesn't necessarily require you to go through some kind of gatekeeper. Although my experience is that, it's kind of like when directors get director's cut, the movie winds up being like 4.5 hours long and is not nearly as good as the movie where the studio had control. I realize that is not a popular opinion, but it's true. Fight me. But yeah,
where's the Schneider cut of Santa Jaws?
But yeah, no, I wish I was better read to be able to actually, compare and contrast these sorts of things. But I will say that, because I only know of him as reputation, I do always think it's worth taking a look at people who have been able to find some kind of success in their field. Because in the end, if it's not for me, well, I don't really feel the fact I don't like it should cut people off from being able to see, things that they like. And if in the end I think it's absolute trash, maybe what I want to do is make the positive case for the good stuff. Like the Pointless Discord podcast, which is now at, I guess, 25 minutes and has not yet actually talked about Santa Jaws.
Hey, to be fair, this is not the shortest amount of time that it's been before we got into talking about something.
I just know I get to see. I actually would not, if I was you looking for the episodes I was in, I wouldn't have even looked for my name. I just would have looked for the one with the extremely long runtime compared to the neighboring episodes. So I'm just a little self-conscious about it at this point because there's been 2 trials of that.
It's all good. We have, I think the longest episode was like 1:30. And to be fair, that's because Hop's fire or smoke alarm went off and then left 2 people with very short attention span. I only know this because I just edited the episode. It's the Anna the Apocalypse episode where Hop leaves and we're like, what do we do now? I don't know. I think Hop has questions. Here's this, and it is it is very chaos oriented. Where, but anyway, we're not here to talk about that. I think it's time to talk about the movie Santa Jaws.
You mean it's time to roll dice?
Yes, I was waiting about to say that, but thank you. Which I just realized I don't think we told Systemchalk to bring dice.
I don't
But you
do
can-
that nerd stuff, so I'm just going to use a random number generator on my computer, and you can trust me.
Okay.
1 to 100.
1 to
please.
100. Yeah, so we rolled D100s because since we were talking about horror movies for Christmas, we, just like Call of Cthulhu, they rolled D100s, and whoever rolls the lowest has to give 1 to 2 minute quick synopsis of the film. So there's that. But yeah,
I rolled my dice
All right.
digitally.
I rolled my. Okay.
If you want a screenshot or something, I will.
We
give
can trust you.
I will give
we
credit
trust
to
you.
rolladie.net/roll-a-d100-die, which is currently advertising the Lego Titanic. Titanic, an excellent movie by James Cameron, still holds up today. I actually don't know if there's another romance I can think of other than that. You can see I'm really trying to avoid talking about the shark movie. Anyways, I got a 74, so please tell me I don't have to summarize this movie.
Ooh. Oh. I rolled a 42, but Hop has a 25.
You rolled the answer to everything.
Well, you're the one that has to answer this question of what's going on in this movie.
Okay, so let's see how this. Okay, here is my summary of the movie. Adults suck at their jobs, so a teenage boy draws comics, gets a magic pen from his grandfather, and draws a murderous shark into real life in this nondescript town with a dock and a swamp at the same time. And he has to save the day.
Did you watch the movie?
I don't think that's a.
There's not more to the movie.
I know.
I don't think there's a lot of inaccuracy in that.
I know. I'm just messing. Just like how I think everyone was like, I was a little distracted when I was watching the movie. So System, just let you know, and anybody, if this is your first episode, I have a 30-minute timer. If we don't fill the 30 minutes, it is A-okay. But we are going to talk about this movie. There will be full spoilers, so if you guys want to watch this movie, pause, watch it, come back to hear our spoilers, and then after that, Hop has some questions, and then we're done. So I will start the timer in 3, 2, 1.
What was worse, the acting or the plot?
So the acting, the main character gave me Spider-Man 3 vibes.
He did have the hair.
And, like, this is when Peter Parker was trying to act cool. That's what it felt like when this kid was acting. I also wrote that 9 times out of 10, the main kid... nothing against the actual actor kid, because he actually looks close to the age he's supposed to be. But he looks constipated all the time.
It was very... Oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to say the best friend. They could have said, we'll do another take, try to loosen up a little bit.
Nah.
There is very obviously, like in one of the earlier scenes with the comic book, it is painfully obvious that they are re-recording the lines, like, and overdubbing it. And I'm like, if this is the, like, improved performance, what exactly are they replacing? Like, it might be that just, like, a fan turned on in the background, but, like, this is not an improvement.
Yeah. I would say I wouldn't mind reading the comic he was drawing. It looked fun.
The art in the comic was the best produced thing in this film.
Yep. I'll save if people want. It's not Christmas related, but if they want a comic that is based on an underwater monster, that is really fun to read. I will save that for after the 30 minutes.
So yeah, actually there is one thing. So I'm trying to figure out the Christmas angle to this, because like maybe it is just, you know, we have, you know, we have to produce so many movies, you know, there's only so many minutes that we can broadcast of like high quality stuff, so here's the budget for the rest, and like it's Christmas time coming up, so sure, you know, we've got our, it does seem that like sci-fi I think this is a sci-fi production.
It has all the makings of one, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, obviously there's the whole shark thing, presumably started with Sharknado. I never saw it, although I think I did see a Riff Tracks thing on Sharknado.
That's like my mom's favorite movie is Sharknado.
What is it the plot or the characters?
I think she just likes it because it's so stupid. Also, it is a sci-fi thing. I was doing a quick Google search, and if you go to the Sci-Fi, you can find it on Sci-Fi's website, but it says this movie is currently unavailable.
Oh no.
Fair enough. How did you all watch it then? I think you all paid
Prime.
to rent it. Yeah. Yeah, surprisingly difficult for me to find, but we got through it. But yeah, so I mean, like, this is one of the things I feel kind of bad whenever making criticisms about, because it's like, you know, do you go to something like this fully intending to complain that it's not like Winterlight, which for those of you who have not familiar with it, it's a very good Ingmar Bergman movie about like a priest who loses faith. It's very existential. But yeah, like, you know, I'm a jerk if I'm going and watching something like Santa Jaws and I'm like, why didn't it tell me something about myself? But I am very confused about the Christmas angle. Like, obviously it's a vehicle that gives the I'm assuming Papa basically committed some form of like metaphysical suicide by giving the tool that the kid would use to like make him the first, like that's the dark underbelly, you know, of Santa Jaws.
I was almost expecting Papa to be Santa at a certain point.
Yeah, because of the beard and like the lame jokes and the obsession with
Yeah.
eggnog. Yeah.
I was just more surprised the fact that like the grandfather of Papa is just, he's like genuinely like a good dude. And then it looks like he's the only one that cares for Cody for like the longest time. Like the only adult in his life that's like, no, I'm here for you, bro. Gets eaten right in front of him. And then it's like, oh yeah, he died. Why don't you believe me? It's like, who would believe you that a shark would come in like fresh water, would come up and eat? Then again, I think a shark did swim up the Delaware River, which is...
Sharks are they're facing climate change right now too. Yeah.
They're big dumbs.
As a general rule, people are surprisingly chill about horrible deaths from a fantasy shark in this movie. Mm-hmm. Like,
no, there's no trauma whatsoever.
yeah, and I mean, again, like I don't watch the Santa Jaws movie expecting, you know, some equivalent of, you know, an anti-war movie in which, you know, everybody's suffering from PTSD of the Christmas shark eating something. Like that's just a different movie.
That'll be the
wanting to
sequel.
watch.
They're all sitting around the bar drinking
budget, so we're
whiskey. Like,
A crazy sequel would be if they were all sitting there and they go, I'm unlocking some memories I didn't know I had.
So playing with the parallel universes, and everybody coming to grips with the fact that actually some version of themselves has died in a parallel universe, and they have terrible memories of this. Every time the child uses the pen, he creates another world in which terrible things happen. Man, there was a point I was going to make on this, but I totally yeah, I should. We only have 30 minutes. I'll shut up, and if I remember it, I'll
it's all good.
Oh, sorry. No, it was the Christmas thing.
Yes.
So, okay, this could be the Canadian side of me, because like I am very familiar with Christmases with snow on the ground. Now in Vancouver, maybe I wouldn't rely on it, but Christmas I associate with a snow thing. And I was trying to figure out, like, there's frost on the ground when Discount Edward Furlong like falls because he sees a girl he likes, and then Grandpa, who clearly doesn't care, decides to wipe off his back, which is the part which didn't land on the ground. So it's like, I'm getting the idea that it's cold, but there isn't actually any snow on the ground, and there aren't any Christmas lights really up. You've got people putting up Christmas lights. And yes, I get it. It's a low-budget production. Of course, they're not going to take the time to actually make the thing look like Christmas. But you also have, like, the, obviously designed to be as irritating as possible Snaptogram model running around in a bikini. And I'm like, Is this just like a culture shock thing where there are parts of the United States that aren't that cold, or is this movie very confused about what time period it takes place in?
I mean, yeah, there are parts of the U.S. that are very warm, but not any that I can think of that have a port city with frost on the ground at the same time.
Yeah, like that was the big one for me. Is like I get that it's a big country and Canada is more northern, but I was like, I'm really trying to figure out where this is set because I don't think it says.
No,
they just say generic, like.
Yeah.
They just keep mentioning the docks.
Yeah, there weren't any gators running around, so I'm going to assume
no,
it
there
could
was.
be that for a second. Oh, was there? Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
There was one. Okay, so it is in Florida. So flash frost in Florida, just so that the child can
slip and fall. Yeah.
Which I always do whenever I see a woman I'm attracted to.
Yeah. What else was I gonna write? Looking through the list here, like I started writing and then it was just like I just stopped. Can we talk about how terrible a person Clark is?
Which one is Clark?
Clark is the comic book store owner.
Yes.
Yeah.
Although the movie is also pretty clear that he's a creepy guy.
Yeah. Like
he got too much airtime though.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's just it. Like, he's not a sufficiently interesting creepy guy. He's just kind of like, I feel like I want to wash after seeing this guy. But like, he's not. Usually, if you've got like a Darth Vader, at least they're interesting. This guy's just sort of like, could I just see less of you, please?
And
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I know what they wanted to do. They wanted him to be the antagonist in the end, right? And they had the whole speech, maybe the pen's corrupting you. I was like, guys, he was already corrupt. He didn't need the pen to convince him that he had to do evil.
Yeah. They wanted the pen to be the One Ring. The pen of power. Corrupted the foolish minds.
In German.
Yes.
Basically.
It was made by... Never mind.
Just put some heavy metal guitars in the background. It'll be a good single to sell with the soundtrack.
Yeah. But I was going to ask who your least favorite character was, but I think we can all agree it's just Clark.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously characters who are designed to be annoying. So, like, obviously the wealthy brother who can't stop talking about how he's at Cornell. I always thought that was a Harvard thing, where it's like, I mean, Cornell's a good university and all that, but I always thought the stereotype was like people who went to Harvard won't stop talking about going to Harvard. But
I think it's like just anyone that goes to rich schools, it's like part of the
any
thing
of
they
the
have
Ivy
to do.
Leagues.
Yeah, as a person who went to the University of British Columbia, fine, I don't think it ranks compared to the Ivy Leagues. No, but like, it was actually, maybe this is because I've been spoiled by shows like Succession and Billions, but I was very fascinated by the concept of a rich guy in this movie, because like the boat, now look, I'm never going to own a boat, but like super wealthy guy who's going to Hong Kong 6 times a quarter, like that's not that impressive of a boat that he's got, especially when he's saying like, what's the point of having a boat unless you have the largest one on the marina? And like, yeah, like he definitely, again, it could be that like this almost is sort of like a very small town idea of what a rich guy is like. You know, like his aspiration is to marry the Snaptogram model, not like a proper model. And I'm sure that's some blistering social commentary that it's the Snaptogram model who is the, you know, the real object of desire now. But yeah, okay, so it'd be like, obviously rich guy is annoying and constantly talks about his education, where the hardworking physics professor, who is absolutely not going to become a drug kingpin in the sequel. But you know, I get that. I mean, that's obviously not really developed. The physics thing almost feels like it's there so that they can do the catapult at the end of the movie. But yeah, like the contrast I'm eventually getting to at the end of our half hour is that like you've got characters who are clearly designed to be unsympathetic and annoying. So like clearly when Snaptogram Lady is going on about her followers and, you know, being a complete airhead, like it's like, okay, so this is obviously going to be one of the people who gets eaten by the shark, because this is supposed to be the moment everyone's like, yeah, we finally, you know, we're allowed to hate the Instagram stars. But the comic book guy, like, as you say, doesn't really have, like, he's in a similar, oh wow, it's bright.
Yeah, I'm trying to make the lighting better. It's just hitting my webcam directly.
No,
so
it's all,
like...
all
Well,
good.
now it's an Instagram filter. Hop is the snapper chat with a snappergram.
Snapstagram.
We're LARPing the experience of the shark. Sorry, Santa Jaws movie. But yeah, no, it's one of these ones where I think the big thing I found is that the characters that are supposed to be unlikable or annoying they're given too much time to be that. And I think you can establish people as annoying for the supposedly satisfying payoff of them getting taken out, with a little bit less time dwelling on just them being annoying or horrible. And as you say, like the comic guy is already introduced as that, and just continues to reach new depths.
Mm-hmm.
Apologies to the actor, who I'm sure is a perfectly nice guy.
He has a very nice IMDb photo.
Yeah, it was pretty unsettling when they were like, "Isn't your girlfriend from Russia?" And he's like, "Yeah, she doesn't talk. It's perfectly fine." I was like, there's a lot of implications here that I'm gonna just scrub from my brain and hope that it's just bad humor.
So I had to be complete. As soon as we started, I really have to go to the bathroom, so I'm gonna just mute myself real quick. You guys can keep talking. It's like my body's like, yo, and I'm like, oh no. So I'm just gonna mute myself, and you guys do the things. I'll be right back.
We'll never know when the timer actually goes off.
I shouldn't be gone that long.
It's a
Okay.
half-hour bathroom break. Yeah, no, I mean, and this is the one thing, like when it comes to sort of fun entertainment, I try not to go too in deep, because you're absolutely right. Like you could say it's like, the man picks up the magic pen and uses it for human trafficking, and I'm like, God, I'm not entirely sure that's the, you know, that could be careless writing as opposed to it. But you're right, like clearly it's an uncomfortable moment, and they have like 2 or 3 other instances where they make largely the same point in terms of his character and him being someone who probably shouldn't be using the pen.
Yeah, like the whole bit, I like, again, it's to your point. From like 2 sentences, we already get an idea that the comic book character, or comic book store owner, is very like self-indulgent, and thinks he's more than what he actually is. Because they keep talking about this Christmas party, and like he keeps upping it as if it's important, but all he has is what, like a bowl of chips and eggnog sitting around.
Yeah.
And he's convinced it's gonna be like a total rager and he's gonna be packed like store. And after like that point, I was like, all right, I understand who his character is. And then it makes sense that the comic book shop ends up being kind of a focal point of trying to find people and having an excuse for them to meet up again.
Mm-hmm.
But then he just has more lines that make him gross, and you're like, I already knew he would say that. We don't need to emphasize that he's still gross.
Well, what's also kind of interesting too is that when you think of these kinds of stories, usually this is like a whole story of what does the power do to you, right? So, you know, that wonderful, I'm going to get super philosophical here, but that great Lord of the Rings spin-off, Plato's Republic, and it starts with, you know, the Ring of Gyges, and the whole thought experiment is, you know, if you had, I don't know exactly why the fact that Gyges can go invisible allows him to seduce the queen, but we'll leave that to the Plato nerds to explain that plot hole. But please leave your comments in all capital letters and address them to Hoppocalypse. I'm sure she'll make sure they get to me. But yeah, like, you know, the whole like this whole genre kind of exists. Yeah, sorry, going into the deep Santa Jaws pen lore here. And I can speak with authority because I am the sort of wanker who writes with a fountain pen.
I recently bought myself a fountain pen.
They're great. What brand did you get?
I don't recall. I just know it glows in the dark.
Oh, nice. Yeah. I have it's very good when you're writing in the dark that
Very
you can find it
important
if you drop
feature.
it. Yeah, I actually have a black lame. I also had a Waterman and a Schaefer, but the problem with my black lame is that if I drop it and it's dark, it's actually really hard to find. So I could use a glow in the dark pen. But yeah, like the interesting tension on this one is always like, what kind of person do you become with power? And that's even set up in the movie, right? Be suspicious of the person who would use this for gain. And so a natural way to deal with that conflict would be the main character, right? You know, he can use it to try and get the things that he wants, and situations get worse as a result of that, or he can use it for good. But instead it sort of seems to be, you know, Discount Edward Furlong. I'm sorry, I don't know the character's name. That's just why I call him that. But
D-Payne said it at one point, and I didn't even realize that
Cody.
was his name.
Cody. Okay. It's just he reminds me a lot of like John Connor in Terminator 2. I was really waiting for that moment when he just looks to the camera and says, "We're not going to make it, are we?" And then the shark says, "It is in your nature to destroy yourselves," and then he eats his brother or something like that. By the way, D-Payne, I'm sorry to say your mic was on, so we kind of gave it a couple of minutes, and all of a sudden we heard, "Oh God!"
Well,
I
that's
want to
a
edit
bummer.
that out.
I'll think about it. It's the full experience.
Might I suggest more fiber in your diet? Anyways, yeah. So we're talking about the Ring of Gyges and how it relates to Santa Jaws. Give us your thoughts.
Yes.
No, so one of the things, like we've got this supremely unlikable comic store. Sorry to repeat, especially to the podcast
No,
audience.
it's all good.
I totally get, like, maybe you just want to put all my lines in one spot and people can like fast forward at the start and then get to you and hop. But yeah, like we've got this idea of like the unlikable comic owner, and I mean, like, so the functions that he seems to serve in terms of the whole pen thing, so yeah, it reinforces the idea, you know, the mistrust the person who would use it for personal gain. He takes the pen away from the main character, so, you know, presumably you say, okay, well, he can't draw his way out of this, although he does get the pen back really quickly. So the only thing he really seems to serve is to put the will-be girlfriend in danger. That one actually surprised. I'm not talking like Janet Leigh in Psycho, but I think it was Janet Leigh. Anyways, I'm not talking about the spoiler alert moment in Psycho. You know, I didn't feel this complete displacement in terms of a relatable character. I was a little surprised that, you know, the romantic interest was killed off, and I'm like, okay, so obviously the end of this movie is to like restore everything using the pen or something, some equivalent magic.
Yeah, I did have that thought when I think after like the second or third death, I was sitting there and I was like, oh, they revealed the pen's powers. Why don't they just undo everything? And instead they made it this huge convoluted way to make the monster more monstrous.
Yeah, and that, again, sorry to keep harping on this point, but that's why I actually think it's more interesting if you make the, you know, the source of corruption internal, right? Where the things that you do make it worse. And again, it might be due to lack of motivation. But again, it just seems to be that the comic book artist is pure-hearted and it's the comic store owner that's the jerk. And essentially just everybody needs to get out of the way of each other until finally they can, you know, burn the comic and set the world back to normal.
Isn't that what the German line, it's like kind of suggesting like your like I'm trying to remember, because they were talking about it as like kind of your state of mind of the reason why you're drawing, and that's why Santa Jaws came out as evil. It wasn't, which then they're like, no, this is the lore behind Santa Jaws. It's like, no, the inscription was like, if you're gonna like draw with like malice or like with hate in your heart, it's gonna come out evil, which is why Santa Jaws is this. But then they're like, hold up, that's too deep. It's just comic book. But then it also doesn't really make sense because like, and if I'm repeating what you guys said, like it feels like Clark's whole point was just to show that you can create life with the pen, and like because he creates Russian girlfriend whatever her name is.
She has a name, Svetlana.
Svetlana. Yeah, I
Svetlana.
couldn't remember. You remember that one?
It's okay. She
Of
doesn't
course, she's
talk, so it's
attractive.
fine.
Yeah. But yeah, like he creates, what is it, money? Svetlana.
No.
Yeah.
He
No, he
meets-
does. There's
No,
money
he
behind
does.
the
Yeah,
character.
right.
I
Because
just remember the car.
yeah, he makes the car.
That
you
was
see,
Svetlana's card. Are you
Yeah.
saying the comic store owner is not a
sorry.
Yes.
trustworthy source?
and then
That was totally his car.
Then Svetlana was there and he's like, yeah, this is my girlfriend that no one ever knew I had, and she doesn't speak because I don't have a great imagination. But then it's like they look up and that's when they see like the piles of cash like kind of in this little cubby hole, and they're like, he's not coming back. And that's when like in the background you see him like throwing the key out of their car, and then it's like, oh wait, we have bikes right here. And it's like,
And then they did the ET bit.
yeah. But no, it felt like his whole purpose was to illustrate you can create life with the pen, and then was like, okay, so like whoever dies, it doesn't matter. Like you just
right.
redraw them. But then it's like, but
Although
then
interestingly enough, that's not the way that Cody gets out of the problem. right?
yes.
He actually writes in a wish. So he writes in a Deus Ex Machina at the end so that he can they can get out of all the problems that they work themselves into.
Yeah.
But again, I'm not going to end a movie Santa Jaws with "I've lost my entire family."
They should have.
This will be a difficult road ahead.
And then that's how he becomes Santa Claus.
No, it's
all
how he
connected.
becomes a major climate activist, talking about the terrible effect. I do like that the game tries to the movie, like it makes a few gestures to social issues of the day. So it refers to climate change, and then I think one of the characters tells the other off for using the incorrect pronouns of the shark. And I'm
Yeah.
trying to figure out if that's them like either making fun of the topic or trying to address the topic, or it's just they needed some dialogue, so they decided to put like a pronoun reference in it.
Yes.
But it's all
Probably.
of this.
I thought something that was like mentioned, and then like where they felt like might be a plot point where like the uncle says like, hey, be kind to your mother. She was a real rebel when she was your age. And it's just like, okay. And then nothing is really ever shown of her except that she's willing to shoot Clark in the face to find her kids.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I like that for you to emphasize that she's like a Karen. They put her in the most uncomfortable looking sweater when everybody else is practically like she's literally running around in a bikini. And they have her in the really stuffy sweater with like the little bobbles on it. And I'm like, she doesn't look like someone who's like super like whatever you say. Like she doesn't look as uptight. And they're like, no, we put her in the sweater and gave her the haircut. She's uptight, guys.
This was another example of culture shock for me, where it's like when I see a guy running into the comic book store with the gun, and I'm like, should this be an expectation in terms of normal comic store behavior? The guy seems chill about it, and then they point the gun at it. I'm like, okay, yes, this is probably breaking some sort of a rule at this point, but it's
go ahead,
difficult to
finish.
know like the stereotypes of Americans versus the stereotypes of bad movies, because generally if somebody runs into a store with a gun, this is the time you run for the exits.
Like in this universe, it is shown that cops don't exist because
Well,
there's
they don't care.
multiple deaths, there's gunshots, there are explosions, and not one cop is there. Don't they say they're too busy like
They're
guarding
getting
the
ready for
street?
the
Yeah, the
parade.
parade.
Which do we ever see the parade? No. It's
Yeah,
But
because
the
this-
boat parade is gonna happen.
it's because this isn't the real world. It is actually a machination, if I'm using the correct word, of Cody's pen world. See, this is what Santa Jaws actually is. It's not reality. It's his imagination, because once he drew Santa Jaws, it altered the world to be in his comic book, and that is why everyone comes back to life at the end of the movie. It is not reality. Sorry to break the world.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. I like this movie now.
Yeah, I don't know if that's actually true. It came off the top of my head as my fake rant, but it's
No, it's beautiful. We were talking, like, we were just going back and forth, like, not to make this movie and pretend that it's, like, deeper than what it's trying to be. It's, it's a source of entertainment with, like, a Christmas layer, not even theme, just Christmas on top of it. but that we've been poking fun at. Maybe this has meaning, you know, like I don't know if you were still here when Systemchalk and I were like, there's the implication of human trafficking because Clark can just make people.
No, it wasn't. But yeah.
But then that made me think of the Rare Exports movie that we watched, where
that's the series Cell.
They do export people.
Mm-hmm. Well,
are they people?
Yeah,
they're humanoid.
It's now I'm just imagining the meme of like Clark who just like once he's done with Svetlana is just like, I don't want you anymore, and it's like that Toy Story 3 meme where he drops Woody. Like he just drops Svetlana like I don't want to play with you anymore, whatever the line is. But yeah, there was one thing that like there was a couple of things that got a chuckle out of me. But the one thing that like just made me like just die laughing is when they finally kill Santa Jaws and it plays like a sound clip of Ave Maria.
I was not prepared.
I'm like, oh, okay. It's like that's like the 30-second clip before they have to pay money for rights.
There are a few fun, like grim versions of Christmas music associated with the shark. I wouldn't say it's John Williams, but it was fun to hear. You know, so many Christmas carols in a minor key. Well, the ones actually, there's a lot of Christmas carols in minor keys. So,
yeah. I think there was out of all the death scenes, I did get a laugh out of two of them. The two that really got me was the fact that the older brother got impaled by his own suggestion for the creation.
Yep.
Hoist by his own petard. We're a literary podcast.
Yeah, because it takes them a really long time to realize that the pen might be useful in killing this thing. So they're sitting there on the dock, and he's like, "What if you just kill it?" And he's like, "What? Draw X's over its eyes?" And I was like, if that's your intention, it should work, shouldn't it?
Why not?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So they go through and they make it a unicorn shark via candy cane stabbed through its forehead. To later come back to the brother going, "I'll help," impaled. I just sat there. I was just laughing.
The whole family dies that in 3
in that
seconds.
one bit.
3 minutes.
The other one that made me laugh hysterically is the mom. Because I know they were like, sit as still as possible, but wave your arms around. We have to Photoshop a shark on your legs.
Mm-hmm.
I promise this will look great in post. I actually did want to get back to the thing you said about the mom. I kind of wanted to draw something out. Because like one of the I try to take the view, I'm failing at it right now, but like I try to take the view that it's really easy to sort of like dump on stuff. But that isn't always the most interesting. So it's like, you know, I sometimes think about, well, why did I not find this very satisfying? And you're right that this movie does, like, so I feel like there's a lot of time spent on things that maybe aren't that rewarding. So like how many more Comic Guy is gross scenes, or like how many times, you know, is Snaptogram model annoying? How many times is brother a jackass? You know, like that scene is played a few times over. So clearly there is some fat that you can cut that doesn't involve, you know, paying for CGI shark. And it's interesting that there are a few things that could potentially be interesting that gets drawn out of it. So for instance, you've got the mom's, you know, rebellious background. Well, that's, you know, a thread that you can pull on. Maybe that would have been in the script at some point. But the other one is like this whole like jocks versus nerds thing kind of comes out of nowhere halfway through and never gets developed. Because like, you know, one of the representative jocks would be the neighbor girl who is revealed to like comic books and be very compatible with Cody. You know, baseball star guy. Like actually, one other thing I'll say, apparently whoever was throwing the arrows and the harpoons in the shark is coming towards the scene could not, like, they're pretty much perpendicular to the shark.
I think my favorite part about that is they had the girl and they said, all right, you throw it, and it still landed like horizontally in the water, and they were like, direct hit, and I was like, hit what?
The water.
But But yeah, like, so it's kind of out of nowhere, like the deep tensions between the jocks and the nerds, which are never established anywhere in the movie before, and then it never really goes anywhere. So, and again, these are things that potentially you can use. And again, I'm not expecting, I'm not expecting this thing to go into great depths, but there you have another source of conflict that would be kind of interesting, and you could actually draw out a little bit more. It could give you a motivation as to why Cody died. I mean, again, as someone who is not exactly famous for his flirtation skills, it is sufficient to just have, you get tongue-tied when you talk with a attractive woman, yeah, it's just one of these things where if he doesn't feel like he can approach someone who's sporty and athletic because of what's been set up, and if those barriers wind up being something that stop people from working together to overcome the terrible Christmas shark, that is, I think, a slightly more interesting way of filling it than Comic Guy is creepy again. Because I mean, it does sort of say, well, what about us jocks being dumb? That's a stereotype too. And I'm like, oh man, this movie's really right. Jocks is people too. Like
profound, truly.
Because what else do we get? Well, creepy comic guy and the nerds behave as nerds, and athletic girl who also is good with comics is like basically good at everything.
And then they could have also touched on, she has like the slightest little bits about expectations and like her family, and I was like, oh, are we gonna meet her dad? No.
Yeah, it's that was what I was about to say, where it's like, I don't know, it could have been, it felt like they didn't really know what they wanted. It's like, okay, if every character didn't have like its own almost movies, like a whole movie plot, like, is that like the by the way, the time is out, just letting you guys know. But the athletic girl, like, her whole thing could have been like a whole movie plot. Jock versus nerd could have been a whole movie plot, and it's like, you're gonna try to literally do what like studios do for like young adults and children's movies.
Coming of age.
Yeah, coming of age thing in a paragraph. It's probably like a page or two of dialogue.
If that.
In fairness to it, I mean, this actually ties, and I know we're at time, so I'll do my best to extend it. But I know, like, Hop, you're kind of talking about parental expectations before the podcast, and again, I may be on the fence about whether or not a whole movie would be sustained by that, because I know, like, there are famous coming of age movies, but again, if I'm watching Santa Jaws and I'm expecting to learn, the meaning of growing up, it is not Santa Jaws' fault that it doesn't deliver that. The thing that really strikes me is just how, like, again, it comes down to the question in terms of how the time is used. I don't really know how much I got out of, jerky uncle talking about how he goes to Hong Kong 6 times a quarter. And the fact that needed to be said twice,
He forgot he said it the first time.
He got it the first. Well, no, obviously he's like, okay, here's the thing. Like, he's obviously very status obsessed. He's obviously, trying to one up his, his brother and all of that. But he's like one of the first people to die. So like, really, this is the time that we're establishing, some backstory and priorities, so that he can be one of the first people the sharks see. I mean, obviously the grandpa's the first one, but, I don't know. Like, it's I suspect I'm not the intended audience for movies like that. Like, this is the problem. I sometimes don't, like, I don't go out of my way to watch, like, so bad it's good kinds of movies, and so I sometimes wind up a little bit confused. And it's hard, right? Like, I don't write fiction. It's easy for me to sit down and sort of say, look at these incompetents making. I mean, they made the movie, so and I've
someone agreed with it. So
I have worked on independent films where I know it is absolutely not certain that the thing will even finish production, let alone get over the finish line of post. But it's just one of these things where I'm also not so open-minded on these things that I'm like, okay, it's gotta, I'm going to defend it. Like in the end, I do try and look at some of this stuff and I say, it's like, well, why did you spend the time on that? Like I want to get on board with you, but give me something here. Like, and it was a little hard to find that in Santa Jaws. Maybe if they focus more on Christmas, I'd find the meaning of Christmas.
I think that's a good segue into my questions, if you're good for those, D-Payne.
There was one gripe I wanted to share real quick. That is, it's not only done in this movie. It's kind of writing, like story gripe that I have, where, and we don't have to go full into it. This is just mainly my personality coming out. Where, and then we can move on. Which was, okay, at the end of the movie, everyone dies, brings him back, and then he's like, oh, I know how to get, like using, like, time, like, memories that only I apparently have, know how to, like, woo the person, and, like, have all, like, this background history where it's like, I don't know if it would be considered a trope, but I don't like the story way of I went through time stuff, everyone died, I came back, and we had this huge traumatic, like, blossoming love thing, but only I remember it. We'll make it work. And it's like, no, you you got to do some work to get that. And it's just like, here's a comic book, and I don't know how you know that you have Santa Jaws, my comic book, on Christmas.
Yeah. There's a lot of plot holes.
So, well, it's like, I'm not saying Santa Jaws is the only. It's like that thing, like that. That's something that personally annoys me, because it's just like, no, you wouldn't.
So I think I could try and defend that if you wanted to spend the time on it, but Hop, you very gracefully moved into questions, so I will defer to your interests in terms of that, because I know I've been talking a lot.
If I didn't have plans after this,
Yeah.
I would gladly discuss more stuff.
Yeah,
with all
we're
of
kind
you.
of dipping into when we should have been done for.
Yeah, so
No,
again,
it's fine. No, the company I have isn't showing up for a few hours, but it's like that little bit of time that I want to make sure that I have time to.
the big Christmas gathering with 3 turkeys.
Yes.
No,
like,
3 sharks.
It's totally not just a cocktail night with friends. There's no holidays going on anywhere near when this is being released.
Yeah, they're gonna watch Santa Jaws.
So I do actually lend myself in the group that I really enjoy watching movies that are so bad that they're good, incidentally. Hence me recommending Sharktopus, the D-Payne, where it's... But I think we did that because we also were, like, watching really, like... We were, like, dissecting movies, like, to the point where we were like, do we like movies anymore? So that we needed a palate cleanser, and that was, like, a nice way for us to be like, I can turn my brain off, and this is just the time.
What were we watching before?
You want variety, you can't.
Yeah.
You can't
I think that was after the Halloween bracket.
Yeah, I'm gonna look it up
Christmas.
real quick.
Because there's like 3 Sharktopus movies, so it was perfect around that awkward November to December.
I feel like there should be
Yeah.
8 at this point if they gotta commit to the bit.
They did. They ran out of
They did
animals
8
they
of them?
can combine that could
'cause
run
they
around
also-
in the water.
And they have like the versus movies, as sci-fi is one to do. They really like
That
doing those.
that was after our Alien and Predator series.
Oh, yeah, we did dissect those movies a lot.
But
Did
they
you
were
do Chris Hansen in the Predator series out of curiosity?
no. But it is funny to look at this and see how much Sharktopus has higher views than any of the Predator movies and Alien movies.
That is funny. But yes, so questions. The segue is us discussing the lack thereof of Christmas, given the namesake of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll rearrange my questions a bit. Would you consider this more a Christmas or Halloween movie?
No.
False dichotomy. I don't think it's either. I think it is like. I mean, I guess horror movie. I suppose people would say is more Christmassy, but I know that there's a whole trope of like inverting holidays. Nightmare Before Christmas is good, but that's because Nightmare Before Christmas isn't a horror movie. Like that. That's why
It's
they
just-
delivered it really well.
Yeah, it's just a holiday movie that happens to cover.
It's a Thanksgiving movie.
Hey, there is the Thanksgiving tree he didn't go into.
Mm-hmm. And an Easter. Oh, man. Could you imagine? Like, I know they had the Easter egg, and I know there's a whole other thing. Can you imagine he goes through the Easter door, and it's just Jesus there? Just, I'm the king of Halloween. Cool. And then
I've
I'm
gone
the
through a lot,
savior of
bud.
mankind.
I'm gonna stop here just in case anyone from my church just comes along this episode, and then
Blasphemy.
yeah, it's the same thing I say when I play Call of Cthulhu. I have to stop here before I get excommunicated from my church.
Does your church do excommunication?
We'll find out.
You might be the first.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Setting a precedent.
Yeah, trendsetter.
But yeah, so I originally had this question for this series because this was like slotted as like Christmas horror movies, and I think the only one that was like a good movie to ask this about was really Black Christmas, where that one is very much a horror film and very much a Christmas film. And that one's
Necrotronic.
Anyway, moving on. Yeah, Systemchalk, if you'd love to see a movie do a very good job with its budget and effects and have nothing of substance, Necrotronic is a good time.
All right.
It might
Will
not.
it replace Independence Day for my guilty pleasures in terms of sheer love of science fiction compared to having nothing to say?
Then next question. Do you think this movie could have taken place without it being during Christmas?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, I mean, like the Christmas shark thing would be a bit weird, but the Christmas shark feels out of place because of the lack of Christmas stuff. Right? Like Eyes Wide Shut does great stuff with Christmas lights, and that's more of a Christmas movie than Christmas Shark.
I think it could, but like the last 10 minutes when they're like, no, we're fully going to transform this shark into a Christmas thing, it wouldn't make... Actually, I guess it would be difficult for them. But the thing is, it's like their Christmasification of weapons was just wrap some garland around it and then, or make sure that the weapons are candy canes. That's the one thing I didn't want to say. I don't understand how that candy cane would have even lasted stab in the eye when it can't even sit in the package without breaking. But that's a whole nother subject. Anyway, no, I think it could potentially...
Yeah. Christmas is not a major factor other than the fact that it was called Santa Jaws.
The
So
greed
they
of
were like,
man is more of a theme for this series.
But the greed of man can in fact be an interesting source of
Hey.
Christmas stories. There's a one about sort of this supernatural harassment of a wealth creator by this, like, I guess proto-socialist Charles Dickens. You ever hear of it?
No. I'm just also remember the Rankin Bass ones when it's just the little drummer boy, where it's like the big problem with that, or one of the big things that a sheep got ran over by a Roman soldier.
It was wild watching. Like, I didn't watch Little Drummer Boy as the stop motion film before, like as a kid,
Yeah.
and I can understand why. Because in school they probably watched it once and went, "There's a lot of death. There's like slavery and human trafficking. We shouldn't show this to kids."
Buck wild. And then everyone's like, yeah, Jesus' first miracle was turning water to wine. No, apparently, according to Little Drummer Boy, it was resurrecting a sheep
Well,
while
that
he was a
sheep-
baby.
You better realize that the sheep later went on to become the redeemer of sheep kind. It's like the Animal Farm version of the Nativity and Easter story all over again.
Yeah, after that, they went to Santa.
I did want to say one thing about Greed of Mankind, because I don't know how well known this is, but I think would both of you say that the Charlie Brown Christmas is a good Christmas movie? I feel like this is an unambiguous one.
I didn't watch it growing up. I have no opinions on it.
You've never seen it?
I don't think so.
Oh,
it's really wonderful. Well, Itisdpayne, do you agree with this?
As a Christmas, I think it's a decent Christmas movie. I'm waiting for you to prove me wrong now.
No, I'm not going to prove you wrong. But did you know that it was originally a Coca-Cola commercial?
I could see it. Like, it'd be... Oh, man. Does that mean we could have gotten a series of the Coca-Cola polar bears?
Yeah, I was going to say, they're my favorite mascots for the holiday season, and they're just advertisements for Coca-Cola.
Yeah, well, you need to... Well, I mean, I think everybody knows, like, why Saint Nick now looks red. Like, the... Well, actually, okay, do both of you know why Saint Nick is red and white?
No.
Coca-Cola. So
Capitalism.
if you remember the rhyme, he was covered in fur from his head to his foot. Like, the whole Santa Claus thing is this big fur wearing guy.
Santa was a berserker.
No, Santa.
He was a caveman.
That line makes you think of Krampus. Just
And basically the Coca-Cola company is realizing that they do really good business during summer, but they don't do a good business during winter. And so they created this campaign of Santa Claus dressed in the Coca-Cola colors to sell Coke during Christmas. And I remember a thing of like people having a bunch of Cokes around in Christmas. And that was so effective at reshaping the image of Santa Claus, is that, you know, it's the Coke Santa we're all looking at as the default Santa.
Sorry, the thing of Coke Santa is
Oh,
like
yeah, okay, now we've
completely
got our next
different
slide.
imagery.
Yeah. We've got our Wall Street style.
That's why it's
He
beard
does. That's
is
why he
white.
doesn't sleep. He's super fast.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm way more into Christmas now. Is that why they
yeah.
made Pepsi Man to fight Santa?
Did they? What?
Okay, we're off subject.
Okay, yeah, so anyways, but yeah, so Santa Claus is red and white because of the Coca-Cola company, and it did in fact sell increase sales throughout the year. And all of the Coca-Cola references are removed from the Peanuts Christmas special because the TV laws at the time did not allow them to be in there. But I believe if you check online, you will actually still see some of the single frames which show like Coca-Cola Presents. And basically, Coca-Cola bankrolled this wonderful animated movie about the real meaning of Christmas and how it's getting too commercialized. So it was a really wonderful film that they made. And weirdly enough, they don't get any credit for it now because, you know, the old TV laws were such that you couldn't extend the advertising. So there you go.
Interesting. That is a fun fact.
That's when we need a little sound effect. The more you know.
So then, I know D-Payne and I have our little list of criteria of what we consider to be a Christmas movie. So I now am obligated to ask, even though we all agree it's not a Christmas movie, does it meet your criteria for a Christmas movie? And I can go over our list before you all immediately say no, because
You might be surprised.
does
I
it
calls
take
you the contrarian.
does it take place during the Christmas season?
Debatably.
Yes, it takes place on Christmas Eve because they said they do
and
say
ends on
that
That's right, it
Christmas.
is.
they do
Yeah.
say it's Christmas Eve, and then it's the next day is Christmas. So yes,
Fair. Okay, fair point. Does take place during the Christmas season.
Does it have Christmas music?
Yes, it does
Yes.
grim versions of the.
it's got Ave Maria, the most Christmas song.
Are there Christmas decorations?
Yes.
Only on the Shark, though. Absolutely nobody has decorated for Christmas.
No,
Apparently,
they
they're
have-
putting up the.
They have
He trips on a lawn ornament.
they have the lawn ornaments on there. They have snowflakes in the restaurant, which is actually against fire code in America. At least in
Oh, the
schools.
hanging paper
Yeah.
snowflakes.
They have there's stuff around. A lot of it is in bins. So.
There's the one stocking on the boat, and they said they didn't finish decorating, and the mom, being bitter, was like, "Or they suck at it." I was like,
Yeah.
"Okay."
I was gonna say, you're putting up Christmas decorations on Christmas Eve. What's the point at that point?
Well, they just got there.
No, they're doing the parade. They have to decorate the boat. Okay, my favorite question to ask during the series: is there a Christmas moral to this movie?
Yeah.
Well, tell us the moral first, D-Payne.
Exactly. The moral is don't create a shadow realm from magical pens you don't know about, because you could kill your whole family and bring them back. It's like, oh, could you imagine if they came back and it was like Uncanny Valley?
They come back and it's us. They're shadow realm versions of
Yes.
themselves.
Oh man, and that's the sequel where he has to he's got to team up with not Sharktopus, what is this, Santa Jaws, and like a buddy cop film, make it out of the shadow realm to his real family, and it turns out he's in a coma this whole time. Boom.
I almost thought the ending was him waking up from a bad dream.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so did I. I mean, I'm assuming they probably wanted to have a little ambiguity about it. Again, I don't want to go in defending the ending from D-Payne.
No, there isn't
have
a
to go.
moral.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's the usual moral that you get from one,
Capitalism.
like obviously what he learns for himself, be yourself, take your
confident.
shot, right? He meets with the neighbor girl and they find out they have more in common, but I'm not entirely sure it's a Christmas moral as opposed to it just being a very standard, I learned something about myself having performed as a hero kind of moral.
To be fair, she shouldn't have came back to life unless it is saying that they're going to get married at some point, because I think his words are, I want my family back. And we don't see we don't see Clark or best friend, but we do see her, thus meaning...
Because she's his neighbor.
Yes, but not family. They're not family.
The reason we don't see the other people is because they're in different parts of the city.
No, it is implying that through the power of pen time magic that it obviously showed. It saw...
They're fated mates.
Yeah, they're going to get married.
So, okay, if
and thus become family. Unless
if
it's
you're
a
saying
family.
that the bonds of marriage transcend time, not to get gross about this, but doesn't this imply that every marriage is incestuous?
Sometimes. I've read history.
Okay, thank you, D. Habsburg. I'm just saying that if we want to see these things through to their conclusion, we may want to go through. Anyways, I'm sorry, Apocalypse. The moral of the story is
everyone's family
are gross. Yeah. And no, I do not believe there is a Christmas moral. However, not to move the goalposts here, I did not originally assent to the criteria of a Christmas movie, just so it can be clear.
Now I'm just imagining, you guys seen that famous scene of Leonidas? I'm Leonidas, but I just want to imagine it's now like with Santa Claus. I am Santa Claus. I am Santa Claus, and it's Santa's just...
Is this Leonidas or Spartacus?
Whatever. I could see it with Leonidas as well, like as everyone's
Maximus.
dead.
There we go.
Yeah, it was one of those dudes.
One of the us's.
I am Ben-Hur.
Then the final question we use for this criteria, because for your context, Systemchalk, we watched a bunch of movies that people call Christmas movies, even though they're not Christmas movies, i.e. the Die Hard.
Yeah, but Eyes Wide Shut is the best Christmas movie, followed by
not on our
3
list.
Days of the Condor. Sorry, 3 Days of the Condor.
Sounds like we're gonna have to make a new Christmas list.
And then the final question is, does Santa appear?
Yeah, Santa Jaws.
Unless we... Santa Jaws isn't Santa, though.
It's in his name.
Unless we want...
We have beginning comic book Santa, who is a murderer who
evil
has Feliz Navidad tattooed across his forearms.
That's what all Santas should have.
And then, we have Santa Jaws.
So was he actually Santa? I wasn't clear on this.
No.
I was
He's not.
Because I was going to say, like, if it's a question of real Santa, then it's, we're back to Papa with the magical pen and the ambiguous status of his Santa-ness. But we shouldn't stereotype the elderly. They have great knowledge to share, and not all of them should be hit up for gifts, right? So.
But yeah, so I mean, even though we technically said yes, I'd say this is
3 out of 5 Christmas movie.
I guess it's a Christmas movie.
It's a Christmas
guys.
movie.
I think you need a better definition of a Christmas movie.
Complained about it.
I'm pretty sure Die Hard is a Christmas movie.
Actually, not according to that list.
Really? What does it fail on?
No Christmas.
No, it came out. It has a 24 out of 30.
Does it? I don't know. I can't remember.
It failed on the Santa.
Santa and no Christmas music.
But Hans Gruber does have a beard, so.
And then we said the
and
Christmas
it does go
moral.
down.
We went 50-50 on the Christmas moral in that one. We were like, don't move away from your wife and kids and expect your wife to be loyal.
Actually, Die Hard would be a Christmas movie if Hans Gruber didn't fall off the side of the building, but rather fell down
the elevator
a chimney.
shaft.
No, a chimney and exploded into the fire. I just improved
so
Die
right.
Hard.
Jack Frost should have been in it.
Oh, God. Moving on before we get sidetracked again. This one's just a for fun question. Were you rooting for anybody to make it to the end?
Yes.
Assuming that the ending didn't happen where he erased history and rewrote history.
Yes, there was
That's a
one.
good question, actually. I mean, I didn't dislike the main character, Cody. I would have liked to have seen, his companion. I don't know. I like young love. I don't know. I feel like they were two people who got along well and didn't need to were fighting against the constraints of their misunderstanding families. So I would have been happy to see them make it through the end, but obviously the couple didn't. So my heart was broken and I'll never recover.
How about you, Hop?
Yeah, I'd say the main character and the young girl were the most human of all the characters in the entire movie. The brother was fine, but he was also kind of annoying, where they wanted me to believe he was good at baseball, but all they had him do was throw not baseball related objects and then make fun of him. And I was like, is this his character? Just, I swear I'm good at throwing things, just not this oddly shaped turkey.
Should have had like a peg leg and shouted, "From hell's heart I stab at thee."
But overall, the rest of the characters, other than the main character and the girl, felt very stereotypical, even though the movie wants you to believe they're not all stereotypes. They all didn't feel like people to me, so I could take it or leave it if they made it to the end.
Yeah, I mean, they're kind of, in addition to just being stereotypes, they're kind of incompetent and unlikable for the most part.
Yeah, the dad. Don't you understand? Global warming is why a shark would be here. It's not your fault, son. Just listen. I have magic powers, Dad. Just listen to me for 2 seconds.
Well, even I think we talked about this about people being really chill about death. Like if somebody ran up to me, if a stranger ran up to me and said something really terrible happened, somebody's died or somebody's in danger, my reaction is not to disbelieve them. Honesty matters in this family. Right. And I'm like, somebody called for help.
All you had to do was Fortnite emote and just go on with your day.
They tried to do the boy who cried wolf, but they did it poorly.
Yeah, it didn't make sense.
I think they did the boy who cried wolf like 20 minutes later when they said, he likes to do practical jokes. And I'm like, that's information you give me at the start.
Yeah.
And then they didn't give examples till like an hour in, because he was like, there's like an evil guy living on a street supposedly, and there was a murderer on the loose at another point. Mm-hmm. But they all like spread. The main conflict between his parents was like a political cartoon.
Yeah.
And I was like, when are we going to talk about the fact that he makes political cartoons again? Never.
Well, it was the principal, right?
Yeah, but he had in his mind it was about the loss of freedom via uniforms and.
Oh, I thought that was just his ex post justification for like saying his principal was a dick. But yeah, no, fair point. I mean, I was kind of hoping that there would be the moment where like super principal comes in, and I realize he didn't write the principal with the magic pen, but that would have been kind of fun. Which is and again, like this is Sorcerer's Apprentice, sort of the creations that you've wrought. Kind of come back to bite you, but I'm giving the movie too much credit. Mm-hmm. But then again, Ghostbusters did it with the Stay Puft one. That's a great twist. Spoiler alert.
I will also say my answer for the question was Grandpa.
Oh, he didn't deserve to die.
I wanted the grandpa to live, and it's really funny because in my notes I was like, I'm actually rooting for the grandpa. I like the grandpa. And then it's like 2 minutes later, Santa Jaws eats him. And in my notes, it's just like, curse you, Santa Jaws.
I will say, I did find some of the, like, I'm old, so I don't know the internet jokes grating. But you're right. He's like a reasonably likable character, but I don't think I got to know him long enough to.
That's because you want to know why they killed him? Because if he stayed alive, none of the movie would have happened. Because everyone would have believed Grandpa, but not Cody. Anyway, we're getting very close to danger time for
I'm
Hop.
just waiting to see guests like bursting through Hop's door behind, and I'll apologize profusely.
Final question: overall rating out of 10.
Diverting.
I will give this. I'm thinking. I think I'm just going to give it a 5.
I was leaning towards a 4.
Yeah, I was like between a 4 or a 5, and I'm like, you know what? I think I would watch this again with friends. I think this would be a really fun movie just to watch, like real like
Mystery Science Theater.
Yeah, just like put it on, just have fun with a few friends, and just laugh at it.
Fun of it.
I did actually have one Mystery Science Theater 3000 moment with it where they're like loading up the turkey. So like at one point one of the characters say it's like, throw that turkey on there, and I'm like, exactly what the producers said when they were going through their seasonal production. But yeah, that's the limit of my wit. Sorry for the past 90 minutes. No, like I'm bad at numerical ratings. It seems to be, like, I did take a quick look online, not to like find my opinions, but it does actually seem to be, for the most part, people feel rather warmly towards this movie, which is one of the reasons I've been a little guarded in some of my comments because, like again, I think this is maybe not for me. I do remember somebody showing me a Shudder special called, was it? Oh God, it's a Lovecraftian God in a Glorious. There we go. That was a surprisingly fun movie, which is sort of in the like low budget, we're trying not to take ourselves too seriously one. So I'm not really sure I would like voluntarily watch this thing again. But for the purposes of watching something to have a discussion, I'm okay with it. Like, I guess if people were to have it on and we knew that we weren't going to be like shushing each other for talking over the movie, I would accept it because I'm very lonely.
This is for anyone that knows Systemchalk personally has listened to this episode. This is a call. He's like, invite me over.
I just want Christmas dinners.
I'll bring Vienna sausages.
Vienna sauce. This is your Habsburg thing again, isn't it?
A what?
Oh, never mind.
In any case, do you want to abstain from a number rating? That's totally fine.
Yeah, I'm so I would say 5. Okay, so here's the thing. Like, I react to numerical ratings. So I was like, I'd say 5 is probably too high. And I do actually know what I consider the worst movie I've ever seen, but I'm not quite sure where I'd place that between a 1 and a 5. And I'm sure it would change over time, much the way that I think both you and Dpayne's conception of movies has changed over time.
Just
so,
in this series, it's changed.
So somewhere between the 1 and the 5, I suppose. Again, I don't think it's a particularly good movie, and I'm not entirely sure it rewarded the time that I spent on it. But I was not like morally offended by it. I'm sure I'm probably missing something that people find enjoyable, and I think that just says more about my snobbish tastes rather than the merits or demerits of the film.
We can just go in
So
the
I'm
middle.
abstaining from a numerical number.
You said between 1 and 5. The middle of that
So you're
is
giving
3.
it a 2 point. Okay.
We'll go with that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to let me think of how to do that. I was trying to do the average of those 3.
What was yours? Did you say?
I said I was going to do a 4.
Oh,
and
yeah,
then
that's
Dpayne,
right.
You said a 5.
Yes, sorry.
And then if I divide that by 3, it comes out to
37.
a 4.
Oh.
But what if you take the geometric instead of the arithmetic mean?
That is more work than we're willing to do.
We've got a software engineer on the team, so
My
could
brain
you
can't conceptualize that at this
could
very
you
moment.
could you design it to take the harmonic mean, but also to make sure that you avoid like the divide by 0 errors?
Hey, here, I have something really important to say on this.
I care a lot about Pythagorean means. Don't silence me.
I'm
The
not going
world
to
needs
silence
know.
you. I'm going to... Here's another thought. Guys, next week we're going to be watching...
We're not watching things. Oh, wait. Yes, we are.
I'm
Next
also...
week we already watched.
Yeah, we already watched it and we recorded it. But the last episode, Santa Claus versus the Devil,
1959.
1959. It is something, but
Warning, racism.
yeah. So,
For anyone that might be trying to watch these movies alongside of us, warning.
but we'll be watching that. And that will be the last episode, and then of this series, and then as we said after that, we have our book episode, which was a result of charity. System, thank you so much for joining us. We normally would talk more, but we talked for almost 2 hours, and then we're like, we got to record, and now
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I don't deliberately go out of my way, but as you've noticed, I say like 10 words when 2 is required.
it is all good. We also didn't tell you to stop because we're respectful.
That's the only reason.
No, like it was a
was
good
very-
conversation. That
You
we
can
were
give me
having.
the telemetry of the episodes to see like just the sheer cliff as soon as I start talking.
Nah, that happens when I talk.
But yeah, no, we appreciate having you as a guest. For any listeners that are not familiar with Systemchalk already, make sure to check him out.
His links and stuff are below.
Are they?
Well, not yet. I
don't see 'em.
haven't edited the episode. So.
In
But
any case, I am hungry, so
Mhm.
I will start waving and see if Dpayne catches my drift.
So let's talk about. No.
I'm waving too.
Oh, I see that one. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for listening. We'll be back next week for the final episode of our holiday horror series. Thank you so much, sister, once again. And until next time, talk to y'all later.